This is Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this podcast series is called Spiritual Immersion, Taking the Plunge. And the intention of this podcast series is to inform you, inspire you, support you, and empower you to explore who you are inside this human experience, inside the circumstances, the uncertainty, the unknowing, the radiance, the brilliance, to explore who you are inside this human experience, and to be able to not only explore it, but expand your capacity to be more of who you already are. My sense is you're 100% potentiality. It's not my sense. It's what I truly believe in terms of us being divine beings in this human experience. And in our divinity and our divine, sacred, universal energy, we are full potentiality, 100%. And the only thing that we have to do is take full responsibility for that, for becoming and evolving and expanding into our full 100% potentiality. Now, that's a big order, and we do this over time. We do this over this lifetime, or we do this over hundreds of lifetimes. We do it on Earth, and we do it at other places, I believe. And so our process is to start somewhere and move in the direction of expanding who we know ourselves to be. The willingness to explore the stuff that's deep or dark or scary, the stuff we don't want to admit, the stuff we don't want to look at, the stuff that's really challenging to our sense of identity, our ego, the stuff that's challenging in terms of trauma and hurt and wounding and damaging that we experienced along the way, either this lifetime or past life, or the traumas of our ancestry that we carry. It's all of that. And it's not to be, it's, certainly like any adventure and any journey, it's kind of, there's a word that's wanting to come up, but it's not coming, but it's an adventure. And in an adventure, it's not always easy, and the path isn't always straight, and it's not always clean and clear of debris or obstacles. So part of this spiritual immersion process is to clear the clutter, clear out the stuff that's in the way, begin to see where and how we make choices, what's the interpretations or the beliefs or the cultural predispositions that we have that have us do things and feel things and be in things in a way that doesn't actually support us. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right in our hearts or in our bodies. So this gives us an opportunity to begin to explore that and make choices. So as I've mentioned before, my process started about 10 years ago, 2010. It's now 2020. And it was, for some, it's like falling into the deep end of the pool. Some of us do that. And some of us are like, okay, I'm going to dip my toe in and see where I go with this process, see where I go with this exploration. And for me, it was kind of both. I fell into the deep end, and then it's like, okay, I got to learn to swim. Otherwise, I'm going to sink here. So I need to start to pay attention and see what's happening and where I have choice and where I don't have choice, where circumstances or where life or where spirit or the divine is showing me things and I'm not listening or seeing or witnessing. I'm not willing to look at it. So all these kinds of places where I might be limiting my capacity to move through this more effortlessly, and where, in a sense, karma plays its hand in what shows up so that I get the lessons. A karma for me is like a really good teacher that says, hey, here's what's in front of you. What's yours to learn here? What's this opportunity with uncertainty or with a scary situation or with a loss? What's yours to learn here? So part of the thing, what I wanted to talk about today, or what I wanted to focus on is that initially for quite a few people, this process is sort of like getting a rocket off the ground, or a what am I thinking of, with the astronauts in it? You know, it's the astronauts are sitting in this capsule in this big rocket-ish thing, and it takes a huge amount of energy and momentum to get the rocket moving in the right direction. And that's where the majority of the energy is spent when a rocket goes into space. It is like in the fuel and the energy that it takes to get it in the direction that it wants, what it's supposed to go, the trajectory of it. And I find that that's really true. I found that true for me, and I find it over and over and over again, that place of it's so hard to get started. And I hear this for a lot of people, they don't have the momentum to move in the direction of what they say they want. And that's true for a lot of people who will call me and say, hey, I'd like some coaching. And yet the coaching, they're not quite ready, or they don't have the momentum to keep going in the direction that they say, because it takes a lot of energy and focus. However, depending on the degree of commitment and dedication and devotion that you have to where you're going, you start to the propulsion starts to gain momentum, and in that gaining momentum, it gets a little bit easier every day. It gets a little bit easier every month, every year, and it's like if I heard this 10 years ago, I would be rolling my eyes and wanting to just die. That's my big go-to, is just, I want to die, right? I just want to stop all of this nonsense. I want to stop the suffering. I want to stop the effort. I want to just stop it all. So if I heard somebody say this 10 years ago, I just want to stop it all, because I was in so much pain and so much suffering in my life in so many ways. And I was so immersed in an orientation of life that made me unhappy. And it was I made it myself. I made it all up myself. Well, based on the conditionings of my family and the culture, and the conditionings of the culture from where I came, and the religion and all that kind of stuff. So in order to make a difference and to stop the suffering, that was my whole trajectory, was just to stop the suffering. And in doing that, then I gained more and more momentum and focus on not moving away from the suffering, but moving towards relief, and moving towards fun and joy and more peace in my life. And as I moved forward, just day by day, just doing what showed up in terms of the spiritual process, life has gotten easier. Things come to me easier. The insights, the lightening up, the ascension, if you will. A oneness uses the word ascending. We're all ascending to higher levels of vibration. And so as I move in the direction of, in a sense, the rocket ship is taking me, I don't need quite so much energy to keep going forward. And I don't need quite as much energy to get me into alignment with my highest truth, my highest knowing. It becomes clearer and clearer and easier, and it's less likely for me to fall back into old patterns, like deep old patterns. They're still there. I'm aware of them, and I have a choice. And sometimes I'm in it. I fall back in before I know it. However, I have a less likelihood of staying there for any particular period of time. For instance, depression is an interesting concept, and I think it's a big part of humanness, and yet I think it's really misunderstood in so many ways. I know when I was in my teenage years, I think I was 17, I went into a spiritual emergence process, or spiritual immersion process. I had no idea what was happening to me, because I didn't have a context for such a thing. But I know I would say I was really depressed. I didn't have I didn't have a space to explore what that actually meant and what was the conditions or what were the conditions that precipitated the depression. Over my years as a therapist and a coach, when people say they're depressed, quite often it just means there's sort of this conglomeration of sadness and anger and confusion and frustration and disappointment and hurt and no direction. So quite often when we're exploring and distinguishing what these feelings are and how they impact, the depression quite often starts to takes direction into or an expression in terms of the anger or the sadness or the grief or the confusion, disappointment that's there, and the depression, in a sense, no longer feels that way. The other day, woke up and I've been stirring in a particular spiritual immersion process, and I felt depressed. And it's like, wow, what's this? This is I don't like this feeling. Let's make it go away. And that's one of our first thoughts: is how do I make this go away? And as I'm thinking about that, it's like, no, this is part of the leveling up process. In a sense, the depression for me feels like a limbo. There's no goodness, badness. There's just this limbo-y, neutral feeling and sensation. And I can judge it or interpret it or make it mean something, or I can say, this is just what is right now. And I fortunately have the tools and I have the support to help me articulate and to distinguish where this is coming from. What's the source of this depression? And so I don't end up, the point of that story is I don't end up going into it for very long. I don't end up immersing myself in an unending trial and tribulation process. I just look at it and say, this is what I'm being with right now. This is what it's like to be me right now. This is the big fat be with right now. This is what I got to be with. And how do I be with this as I'm moving forward? So I was able to move through that much more quickly than I've ever been able to in the past. And that's the whole point of this process, is to support and empower you to see what you're in, see what's the source of that circumstance, events, to see what you're here to learn, to see what the patterning, the karmic patterning or your developed conditionings that bring you to this place, and to support and empower you to be this rocket ship that understands that at first it takes quite a bit of energy and focus and fuel to get the momentum going. And once the momentum is going, then you have a greater likelihood of staying in on your trajectory and staying in motion in that way. So that's pretty much it for today. Again, it takes a bit of energy, like a lot, to get started. The most important thing is that you have a sense of trajectory. Again, my trajectory is just to get out of this suffering. And that's an important trajectory, is to get out of the suffering. And then see that the trajectories are more in alignment with, I get to feel lighter and more love and more joy and more creation and more creativity and delight and peace in my life. And so I'm being taken, if you will, now that I'm a passenger on this rocket ship. I'm being taken into the space of something beyond what I ever imagined to be. Pretty cool. All right. Big hugs to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at rosie@theparadigmshifts.com. You can go to my website, theparadigmshifts.com, for blogs and videos, to see my books. My books are also on Amazon. Or if you're interested in coaching, just check it out there. Or just like I said, email me at rosie@theparadigmshifts.com. All right. Big hugs to you. Bye for now.